What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hopefully you had a good weekend overall. Had a lot of fun here. Had a pretty good Spawncast. Had some fun with Sea of Thieves. I had a pretty long discussion about the Xbox on Spawncast, so if you missed that, you can check it out on SoundCloud, and you can listen to it like podcast format. It'll be posted this Friday, though, if you want to wait for YouTube to have it posted up. Now, we have a couple things we got to get into today. A couple interesting little tidbits coming out about Far Cry 5, which makes me really happy about it because I think Ubisoft is just kind of playing around. But first, we need to get into the giveaways because the first one with the Sora figure, that one is given away. The winner was Devin, so congratulations to Devin. That is on its way to you now. But we need to talk about the 100,000 subscriber giveaway because it's going to be kind of a big one. Now, I did talk about originally building a PC, and that sounded like a good idea up until the mining crisis took place and has really messed up a lot of pricing around video cards, memory, pretty much everything at this point is way more expensive than it was, a year ago. So what I'm thinking instead is we'll just give away some game consoles. We'll actually give away 2 of them. So what'll happen is there's a link down in the description you can enter, and we're going to pull 2 names when we hit 100,000 subscribers, and whoever wins, you have two people win. Each person gets to pick a game console. You can pick a PS4 Slim, an Xbox One S, or a Switch. So maybe you have a Switch and you have an Xbox, you don't have a PS4, or vice versa. You can pick whichever system you want, and it'll just be shipped out to you, and it'll be there in a couple days. So I'm excited to do that. That's going to be happening. So I get down the link, guys, and get entered for that, and hopefully it won't be too long, sometime maybe in April or so, that we can give those away. It's very exciting. And before we get started, also, Reggie did have his birthday over the weekend. Of course, the Nintendo of America person that we know so well. He is of course embraced many memes, and he is now turned 57. So happy birthday to Reggie. And for today, guys, let's get started. So Far Cry 5 is out on Tuesday, not too much longer, and I've been looking forward to it. There's been a lot of really cool information, including the map editor that we talked about here, and I like the setting. It actually takes place in America, and I think it's a pretty good scenery and everything around that. So I'm very interested to dive into that game. But the one thing that I really liked here, and this was by Eurogamer on their YouTube channel, they found out that you can indeed beat the game in 10 minutes. And it's very similar to what happened with Far Cry 4. Now, if you've played Far Cry 4, you know exactly what I'm talking about because it's spread all over the internet like crazy when this first came out. It was such an interesting idea, a little Easter egg. You can finish the game. In the beginning, the main antagonist asks you to stay put and sit there and wait for him to come back. And most of us, I'd say almost all of us, except for the person who figured this out, got up and ran away, right? We jumped over, we ran into the world. Well, if you sit there and wait, he'll come back and the game ends. The credits will roll a minute or 2 after that. And there's something similar here. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens. It has to do with a similar kind of decision that you have to make. And depending on which path you go, the game will either immediately end and credits will roll, or you actually start the game. I'm not kidding. This game can be done in maybe even less than 10 minutes, depending on how fast you kind of run up to it and everything. So, cool idea by Ubisoft. Love these little Easter eggs. Very neat. I'm picking up Far Cry 5, like I said, Tuesday. But the fact that they keep doing this, I hope this continues to be like a little thing that's in every Far Cry game going forward. Just a little Easter egg thing in the beginning. You just finish the game in 10 minutes. I hope there's even an achievement or something little, a trophy or something dumb that comes up too, just for picking that path and ending it and beating the game very quickly. Next up, let's talk about System Shock Remastered. It's a Kickstarter that was started up to take the original System Shock, which was a first-person, almost like a horror type game. It was very interesting how it was done. But it was done in 1994, so of course fans wanted to get it remastered. So a full Kickstarter was launched, raised over $1 million, and then it kind of went on hiatus out of nowhere, an indefinite hiatus. This was weeks ago, and there was a serious concern that it was going to be another Kickstarter failure, essentially, where it was going to be one of those stories where a bunch of money was raised, and then the company didn't do anything about it. Well, at least right now, they did come back to the table and say, listen, we kind of had some issues here and there, and we were getting a little ahead of ourselves at the release date, but we do have a release date in mind in 2020. This was in a conversation with PC Gamer saying, we understood based on the backer feedback especially that we weren't going in the right direction with the game, what we promised to them. That's what really caused the shift in what we're doing now, which is going back to what we'd established and represented with the Unity demo. As we geared up and started moving forward with it, we began to run into feature creep. All of those things that what would be really cool, how we might interpret this, various people wanted to put their imprint on it. As this process evolved over a period of time, it grew in complexity and it veered away from its original representation. That doesn't mean that interpretation would have been bad, but it would have been true to the System Shock vision. Our intention is to ship exactly the game that was promised with as much of the features that were promised as we can in a time frame that will get it out as fast as we can. Our expectation is probably Q1 2020. We've also had renewed interest from some publishing partners for whom the more complex and costly game was something of a challenge for them. That this is what they were hoping we would provide, and with renewed their interest. So good news if you were looking forward to System Shock Remastered. Seems they're back on track. At least they're saying they're back on track, right? It's hard to say. This is from the lead or development director, in this case, kind of talking about what they've gone through, feature creep, where they're all kind of at the table talking about this would be cool, and then all of a sudden they have this massive whiteboard of stuff they have to get done in so much time. So I like the idea of going back, kind of simplifying it a bit, and just putting out a good game overall. And of course, if you go to a publisher and you say, we want to do all of this stuff, and we have 2 years to do it, they might look at you and say, you're not going to get that out. And of course, going back to them with a more simplified version probably makes them go, okay, yeah, we're back on board. So I'm going to be curious to see if this actually gets out in 2020 or if it gets pushed out of Q1 2020, because at that point, we might see some of the newer systems come out, and maybe it'd end up being on a PS5 or an Xbox 2 or a Nextbox. Of course, this is mostly slated for PC, but if it's successful there, most of the time it gets ported anyway. So we'll see. I tell you what, we'll see if System Shock Remastered gets out before the PS5 and the Nextbox or the Xbox 2. I think that's the more interesting comparison there. Next up, let's talk about the homebrew scene around the Vita, something that has very much accelerated, no pun intended going forward here, has really accelerated into homebrew developers really moving games over from the PC. And now they've taken Quake 2 and moved it over to the Vita. The Vita is something that Sony has pretty much forgotten about. It was recently discontinued in Spain, and I can't find one anywhere here in the US, unless I maybe go to like a used shop, like a pawn shop, or maybe a GameStop that just happens to have it used. You're not finding them new in most convenience stores in this case. But it seems like the homebrew developers are full speed ahead with this thing, and now Quake 2 has been moved over, and it has full GPU acceleration, which means it's now going to have a rendered native resolution of 960 by 544, and they say it's a decent frame rate. It's around 60 frames per second most of the time, and they do credit Vita GL for helping them get there. Full sound and music support for the full and shareware version of the game, multiplayer support so you can play against other people, which is great, and they say many other features, including DualShock rumbling if you want to use a DualShock 3 or 4. Absolutely love the homebrew community around the Vita. Seriously, they've taken this little system and just run with it at this point. I love it. I love seeing the Vita get some new life after Sony kind of dropped it very quickly. I mean, it's hard to blame Sony with how it was selling, so I get that. I'm just glad that these homebrew developers have taken this system that is the next PSP to them, and they've really built on it. It seems like Quake 2 and Half-Life even. There was a Half-Life piece that we talked about a week or two ago. This is great. So if you have a Vita and you have it modded or hacked, hey, look into this. You might be able to play Quake 2 in handheld form. Next up, we have a couple updates on a few different games. 2 of them are for the Switch. The other one is actually for the Xbox One. Let's talk about the Switch games first, and we're going to start with Manticore. Do you remember this game, Manticore Galaxy on Fire? This was like a pretty cool looking, we talked about it a few weeks ago on Newswave because it was supposed to come out March 22nd, and it did not. If you notice it on the shop, it kind of disappeared. And that's because they ran into a bit of a snag at the last minute and had to pull it off of the eShop. So if you were kind of looking around, and you're like, what happened to that space dogfighting game that looked really cool? It's something that was very different from anything on the Switch now, so I was kind of excited for it. And while it was based on a cell phone game at the time, I still wanted to see what changes they would make to warrant its price tag. So what happened? Well, they did at least give us some more information around it's just delayed, saying, I can't give you a lot more details at this point, but you can probably imagine it's a very unfortunate situation for everyone involved, as we were just excited as you to see reviews, discussions, and especially you guys getting your hands on it today. We didn't make that decision lightly, but it had to be done to an unexpected issue that basically occurred at the very last minute, and despite our best efforts, couldn't be fixed in time. We're working very closely with Nintendo to keep you updated, and people who pre-ordered will receive a separate message by Nintendo soon. We will announce a new release date in just a few days, and while it's not 100% set in stone yet, you can be sure it's not going to take months, but only a few weeks till the game finally launches. So I'm hoping this makes its debut sometime in April. If it falls to May, that's a while. However, it seems that something, maybe with the recent update, the 5.0 update, maybe gave them a little bit of an issue, because they put this out maybe like 11 p.m. that night or something. It was very close to the day it was supposed to come out. They kind of put this email out there, told everybody, hey, we have to delay it. No release date right now, but we will tell you one. And they also said if you did have it pre-ordered, they can refund that pre-order if you don't want to wait. Now, I'm looking forward to it. I do think it's going to come out. I don't think they're going to cancel it outright, because it sounds like they were pretty much done and then something got changed in the firmware, or who knows something, Sometimes these updates come out and they do mess with games that are maybe built for an older firmware. It's very possible, but as far as we know now, Manticore is still showing up, just not in the next week or two. The next update we got for a Switch game was from Team Cherry about Hollow Knight. Remember I talked to you guys last week about how we're really ahead of the Nindies. They said we're not going to be at the Nindies, but we will give you an update later this week. They gave it to us over the weekend, so they were a little late, but they still put it out there, and it was actually a pretty lengthy post. Now, it talks about how they're trying to get the performance down pat, like 60 frames per second is their goal on the Switch. If you have not played Hollow Knight, it does help to have that consistent, that solid, that high frame rate. It is a Metroidvania, kind of mixed, as everyone likes to describe some games, right, as the Dark Souls of Metroidvanias. Technically, this is closer to a Dark Souls Metroidvania game. Yes, it is, but it's very fun, and it has some length to it. Some people talk about 30, 40, 50, 60 hours put in this game. Seriously, depending on how good you are on it and how many times you die and have to redo bosses over and over again, you can get some time out of this game, and it's a very good game, and that's why people really want this out on the Switch. Now, they did tell us about a release date, and they said they're not ready to give us one. They talked about how bugs are pretty much sorted out, but they're still doing some testing, and because of all of this kind of mixed together, they're just not ready for a release date. So while they gave us an update, they kind of didn't give us an update at all on release date, so we're still waiting for them to tell us something about the release window, the release date. They don't even want to give us a window, so I'm hoping at this point we see it summertime, maybe? That's my best guess. June, July, maybe? I mean, here's the thing about the Switch. Indie games get announced, and then they come out 2 days later sometimes. So, any time, I guess. They could just, it's coming out next week, right? And they tell us 2 days before or something. Who knows? But I would assume that this one is still a few months off, and we might see it sometime over the summer. The fall, I think, would be the latest we'd see it. Now, the Xbox game is actually Hellblade. Hellblade is moving over to the Xbox. It's, I guess, done with its time on the PlayStation as an exclusive and the PC. Of course, it's console exclusive on PlayStation, but it looks like they are moving it over. And this, of course, is from Ninja Theory, who made, in their words, a AA game. They even documented it and said, hey guys, here's how you can do this yourself, talking to other developers, because, of course, the AAA market's very expensive, but they managed to make this game and actually make money on this game. So it sounds like they're going to just make money on this Xbox version. So I do hope the Xbox community takes a look at this game. Maybe you don't have a PlayStation or a decent PC and you keep looking at Hellblade. It's a good game. Check it out. It's coming out on the Xbox April 11th. There's a trailer that came out for it, and if you do pre-order, you get 10% off. So check out Hellblade. It's going to be coming out, like I said, April 11th, and I think it's worth a buy, especially if you didn't play it on the PS4. When it pops up on the Xbox, take a look. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about this mystery listing that a user on Twitter found by the name of Pixelpar. They found a listing called EclairCity. And this seems to be from Nintendo, or at least it's listed as a title from Nintendo. Now, some indie games have this exact same listing. As you're going to see it right here, it does, a lot of indie games do also have the publisher and production company as Nintendo of America. A lot of people started noticing that. But you can see this is the listing here that Pixelpar has found, and we're trying to figure out what EclairCity is. So if you think about it and you can maybe figure it out, I guess let people know. But its classification is PG, mild violence, categories computer games, and the date of classification for EclairCity was December 16th. A lot of people thought, oh, this might be Kirby, since the file name's in Kirby, it was named under Eclair. However, Pixelpar then went to point out it was certified the day after Kirby Star Allies, and it has a separate rating. So, what could this be? This could be an indie game. A lot of people looked at it and said, oh, that's Retro's new IP, so I guess they're doing EclairCity. It could be. I'm not saying it's not. This could be even a code name for the game, as we've seen several code names for consoles or things they want to keep hidden, even during rating systems, up until the point that it's time to reveal. Some people even said, oh, Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing came to a lot of people's minds when they heard EclairCity. Me personally, I do think it could have something to do with Kirby, and while it was rated a day after, it's possible the filing could have been messed up, or who knows, they just had to get it out there and rated and everything and certified. It could also be for DLC, right? I mean, Eclair and then EclairCity, that could be kind of a DLC attached to Kirby. Or it could just be a whole new game. It could be an indie game. It could be a new IP. It could be Retro's IP. It's hard to say, but I am curious what you guys think about EclairCity, and if you think it's a new IP or just maybe it's Kirby and they just messed up the certification. Let me know down below, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. Really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave a bunch of comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is EclairCity. Maybe you want to talk a bit about that because maybe the wheels are spinning, you got something figured out. Let me know down in the comments, guys. I'm very curious what this could turn out to be. It might be something we come back to, a year from now and go, that's what EclairCity was. Also, let me think about Far Cry, the Manicore series, System Shock Remastered. Let me know all about everything we talked about today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hopefully this got you caught up on the gaming news from yesterday and the weekend. And I'll see you guys here again tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for more Newswave.